7 was definitely a little demanding. Now, congratulate yourself if you're up to that level. But this is the one that's based upon parallel lines. Now we're going to start having some parallel lines. So I'm going to go ahead and put the parallel line markings. So we've got 3 parallel lines. And we want to find the angles labeled X and Y. Now, these other 2 angles we're going to need to deal with. So I labeled those other 2 angles A and B. Okay, so if you don't know what something is, give it a label using a letter. That's what I did. So I'm calling that angle A and that angle B. Okay, now the key to this problem is the parallel line transversal geometry. That's the key. All right, if you notice the 38 and the angle I labeled A, those are corresponding. They're both above a parallel line and they're both below that transversal. So the angle I labeled A is equal to 38 because those are corresponding. Okay, now we can get Y because Y and the angle I labeled A are a linear pair, so they're supplementary. So once you get what A is, which is 38, we can subtract from 180 to get Y. Okay, we can get the angle I labeled B the same way. The angle I labeled B and the 140 make a linear pair, so that means they're supplementary. So we can get B by also subtracting from 180. Okay, now we're almost done. Notice we can do the same thing we did to get the angle A in finding X. Because the angle I labeled B and the X are corresponding. B and X are both below a parallel line and to the right of the transversal. Okay, so that's really cool. So X equals whatever B is because, again, corresponding. And I didn't solve some of this. I know you know how to subtract, right? I'm just giving you what you need so that you can finish the problem. Okay, so now we're starting to deal with parallel lines, transversal geometry. And so the same for number 8. Now with number 8, they told you these 2 lines were parallel, so I just put the little parallel line markings for those. And the other parallel lines that were going left and right, they gave you those parallel line markings. So we've got 2 pairs of parallel lines. And we want to find the angle that was labeled X. And the problem told us the angle down here was the expression 3y plus 2. Okay, so we're going to have to use parallel line transversal geometry. Okay, so notice the X and the 76. They're both exterior to the parallel lines, and they're both above the transversal. So they're consecutive exterior. Okay, that means they're supplementary. 76 plus X equals 180. And again, if you want to do the shortcut, subtract from 180, that's okay, because that's really what you're doing when you solve this equation, 180 minus 76. All right, that's cool. So we got X very quickly, recognizing that x and 76 were consecutive exterior angles. So since the lines were parallel, they're supplementary. All right, so now we're going to have to figure out how to get y. Well, to get the y, we're going to have to use the expression that they gave us, and we're going to have to use the other two parallel lines. And so notice the x and the 3y plus 2, those are corresponding. They're both above a parallel line and to the right of a transversal. Okay, so we have corresponding now. Since the lines are parallel, those are congruent. So we can solve this equation. Now, you know what x is because that's from the previous part of the problem. So you have the value of x. And so you just solve this equation 3y plus 2 equals whatever that number is that I'm representing with the variable x. Okay, so again, parallel line transversal geometry, recognizing what types of angles we have. That tells us whether they're congruent or supplementary. So we'll get to number 9 in a couple seconds. And number 10 I threw over here. I didn't want to just squeeze it there. I knew I needed a little more room. Okay, now number 9 is probably one of the least demanding problems, but you got to recognize what to do, right? We have our parallel lines, and if you notice the 2x angle and the 105 angle, those are corresponding. They're both above a parallel line and to the right of a transversal. So once again, we have corresponding angles. And since the lines are parallel, that means these are congruent. So you just solve that equation, 2x equals 105.